For this first picture, you set up your triangle, and remember SOHCAHTOA, sine opposite over hypotenuse, cos adjacent over hypotenuse, tan opposite over adjacent, and then remember the reciprocals. So remember COS, it ends with S, so it's the one that the reciprocal starts with S, secant. Sine's reciprocal is cosecant, tan is cotan. For our triangle, we remember the Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So when we're given two sides, side A, side B, you square them, you then take the square root, and then when you have square root of 232, you can simplify, and you end up with 2 square root 58. You need to leave in simplified radical form. So the box is what we find along the way. So then sine, always when you're doing these, first of all, find sine, cosine, and tan. And then when you need the reciprocals, just flip the original ratios. So for example, sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So opposite of, we're talking about theta. So opposite of theta is 6. The hypotenuse is 2 root 58. To get rid of the square root 58, you have to rationalize denominator. You multiply by square root 58. So on bottom, you have that 2 hanging out in front. Then the 58 comes out, because square root 58 times square root 58 is 58. And on top, you have 6 square root 58. Remember, the 6 is not under a radical. Then in front of the radical, the 6 and the 2 are both divisible by 2. So 2 divided by 2 is 1, 6 divided by 2 is 3. So that's how we end up with 3 square root 58 over 58. Now, once you have sine, to find its reciprocal, cosecant, always take the original ratio and just flip it. So if I take this original and I flip for cosecant, right, 2 root 58 over 6, we cross out the 2, cross out 6, change it to a 3. That's how we end up with square root of 58 over 3. So the reciprocals are a lot easier once you find the original. So cos, so ca, adjacent over hypotenuse, so the adjacent is 14. I always like to label too. So in terms of theta, the opposite is across hypotenuse, and across from right angle, and adjacent is the last one left. Because sometimes we mess up opposite and adjacent. So adjacent is 14 over hypotenuse, 2 root 58. Again, you multiply by root 58 over root 58. You then can simplify 14 over 2. So we get 7 root 58 over 58. Now remember, for the reciprocal, which is secant, just take your original ratio and flip it, which is what we did over here. And then we simplify and we get square root 58 over 7. Tan, TOA, opposite over adjacent, so we have 6 over 14, reduces to 3/7. We can always flip the original. 14 over 6 reduces still to 7/3. For number 2, you need your calculator. So remember, your mode needs to be in degree. And you enter the number that they give us, because it says 87.565 degrees. So you enter 87.565, you hit that, you hit enter, then you hit second, then you hit the angle button, and you scroll down to where it says DMS, and then you hit enter. I'm going to have to hit it twice. And then this is your answer that comes out. Similarly, for number 3, you also need to use your calculator. This one's a little bit harder, so you have to break it down into little pieces. So you have to do this piece first. So you do 126. Then to get the degree bubble, you hit second angle, you scroll down to the degree bubble, and you hit enter. Then you go along and you hit the next number. So you would hit 15, second angle, and then you go to the minutes. This little looks like an apostrophe, enter. Then the last one, sometimes people can't find. You hit 44, but then to get these quotations or seconds, you have to hit alpha plus enter, okay? So you have to hit alpha plus enter. So you get 126.26 degrees. Okay, so for number 4, you need to figure out what part of SOHCAHTOA you're going to use, sine, cosine, or tan. So when you have your triangle, they give us A in red, and they give us little a, the side across from it. So, and we want to find H, the hypotenuse, which is labeled as C. Okay, so down here I drew another triangle. You have to determine which angle you want to use as your reference angle, because opposite and adjacent are determined based on the angle we're referring to. So if I'm going to call this the angle I'm referring to, then this guy that I'm shooting across to is its opposite, right? And then this one is its adjacent, and the hypotenuse is always across from the right triangle. Versus, just remember, if we say that this guy down here is our reference angle, then over here would be the opposite, here would be the adjacent, here would be the hypotenuse. So just be careful. So now we're looking at this red triangle, right? We want H, we have O, and we have this angle A. So if we have O and H, we need to go with sine. So that's why we did sine of theta is opposite over hypotenuse. And so the opposite side was 18. Hypotenuse, we didn't know, we call it C. Theta, the angle we're using, is 37.5. We can multiply by the denominator, right? And then we can divide by sine of 37.5. So then you can see up here we get C is 29.57, and it's a side